Hi, welcome to the 406MX podcast in the Brothers Billiards studio. Tonight we have a good episode for us. We're going to be calling Kevin Bromenshenk tonight to talk to him about his event that he had this past weekend and talk about another hill climb. We had a back-to-back hill climbs in Billings. So that would be cool. And then after we get done with talking with Kevin, we're going to kind of go through the 450 and 250 AMA Motocross Championships. Talk about that, and we'll see how, and just kind of give a brush up. I know we didn't talk about it a bunch, but we'll just go through it, and we'll start the SMX playoffs here in about, I believe it's 2 weeks. Yeah, 2 weeks. We have 3-round series and stuff. We'll talk about that stuff at the end. But I think this will be a really nice podcast for us. Kevin's a great guy. We'll talk about some other stuff too about how he's going to help me out. Let's just give Kevin a call here, and we'll get him going. Yeah, this will be really awesome. Kevin's a good dude.
Hello, this is Kevin.
Hey, Kevin, it's Brendan. How are you?
Good, Brent.
Hey, so
how you doing, Brendan?
We're doing good. Just started the podcast here, and I was starting to let people know about what we're going to talk about and stuff. So I just want you to introduce yourself, just of who you are, and we'll kind of start from there.
Yeah, I'm Kevin Bromenshenk. Brendan and I are fellow members of the BMC, and just came off a weekend of promoting an event for the Motoclimb series out of the BMC grounds. We're had a great weekend, a lot of fun, a lot of heat, out there riding too as well. And so just back into a work week here, heading into the weekend.
Nice. Did you get the holiday weekend off?
Sure. Yeah, I just work regular, the 5 days a week usually.
Same. Well, awesome. Well, we'll jump into the event that you promoted, which is, thank you for doing that, because that's how the BMC does all of its stuff, and it's, as I know as well, it's not easy, and it's not everybody can do it. So we appreciate you being able to do that.
Well, I have a lot of help. It's I think we had over 25, 26 helpers out there that showed up and helped out. A majority of them committed ahead of time, which is great, because then you know who you got, and they're all in their positions and ready to go. And Matsunaga, my co-promoter, and
Dan the man.
Dan the man, yeah, he did a lot of the legwork and had dirt work done, and his connections with Dustin McCombs, and then a lot of the heavy lifting has been already done, and we partnered. Well, we didn't partner, but we had a 2-day event. So we were on Sunday, and Saturday was the nighttime hill climb, and both of us promoters, all of us really teamed up to make sure the hill was watered properly for both events. And weeks leading up to that, of course, BMC members all came out and helped. So it's, nobody does it alone, but I hear you. It's a lot of work. I know that what you do is pretty taxing on you, because I think you have to go out and individually sometimes mark the course and really sort of it's hard to explain where you want a course to be as a cross-country promoter.
Yeah, sometimes you just let the bike go and see where you're going.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll let you have that, my friend. You continue to do those cross-country. You do a great job.
Well, thank you very much. So you said Motoclimb Super Series. Can you kind of give us a little bit of a rundown with what that is for the people that don't know?
Yeah, Motoclimb Super Series is one of several promoting, promoters of the hill climbs, pro hill climb series across the country. There's There's U.S. Hill Climb East. There's U.S. Hill Climb West. Those are AMA sanctioned bodies. There's the Rockwell series that we see come through Billings and in Utah. Then there's the NAHA that has recently adopted itself into the U.S. Hill Climb West, or the American Hill Climb West. Still getting used to the new names that they've given it all. And then on top of all those, we have the Motoclimb Super Series that was founded and owned by Matt Musgrove. Matt recently joined the club about 2 years ago, I think it is, but up until then, he really wanted to get into the club grounds and have his event hosted here. And so Dan and I, as members, volunteered because we have a friendship with Matt through Austin Tyler, and over the years got to know them. So that's how we got involved. But Motoclimb really does span as far as he's gone. This series can go as far as all the way out to, at one time it was in Pogues Hole in New York. It hits an event in North Dakota at the Brick Mine. It goes all the way to the West Coast at the Carnegie, and then it stops here also in Billings. So I think this year is a 4 or 5 part series. In the past, it's been more or less than that. And it's a different type of format. Motoclimb really is focused on the crossover between kind of the motocross type courses and hill climbing together, really capitalizing on the format of side-by-side. And so our format's we'll have a recently changed format to where the 450 class has recently evolved into a stock-only pro stock class. And they will run a series of, one at a time, they'll run their bikes as a qualifier. And the top 32 of those bikes will go into a bracket round. From that bracket of side-by-side single elimination, you'll be awarded points as you finish there. So that's considered Moto number 1. Moto number 2 is then the open class, and they combine the points similar to how they do in a motocross, with the open being the tiebreaker. So if 2 riders finish 1 and 2 in either one of the classes, whoever finishes higher in the open class would get the overall championship crown for that round of Motoclimb. We did also run a 700 class, which we call the 450 to 700 Pro Mod, which allows the extensions on the 450s and that sort of thing, and with nitrous and all that. But when it comes to the pro stock qualifiers and bracketing racing, the Motoclimb series is different because, like it says, those are just stock 450s with only knobby tires. And the reason for that is because Matt Musgrove's got a ton of relationships with factory type riders in the enduro, hard enduro races that you probably know more about than I do. But also like motocross, supercross. We've seen the likes of Josh Hill, Justin Hill come into the Motoclimb and even to the Great American because of the Motoclimb series. In fact, one of the rounds is at Josh and Justin's home in Yoncalla, Oregon, and it's called the Big Hill Jam. And they're in their 3rd year of running that event there, and that was the round that happened previous to the round before they came to Billings. But anyways, it's that stock class is really opening the doors for a lot of crossover riders to just unload their bike. They get, a lot of times it's hard to get a thumbs up from a factory ride to allow a rider to ride an extended bike, but they're usually okay if there's no conflicts with their series to unload the bike and run it stock so that there's no deviation from how the bike would be sold off of the retail floor. So
which
that's
makes
kind of a long-winded
sense.
version. Yeah. It's an interesting series, and it definitely has its niche. We we do have the AMA as a body that provides our insurance and that sort of thing. So riders do sign up for the AMA, whether it be just a temporary 1 day or a year pass or even a pro license. And so that's one of the requirements for the Motoclimb series. You don't have to be a pro. It's a $20 fee to get a 1 day event fee from the AMA, but that's one of the hoops you have to jump through.
Yeah, which I will say the AMA stuff, some people say it's a kind of a hoop, but at the same time, it has good insurance. But if you become a member and stuff, they offer roadside assistance and different things if you're a member. So there's a lot of stuff that goes with it. It's just just a lot of people don't know that, but it's a good thing. I've been a member for a few years when we had some races at the BMC that were AMA sanctioned motocrosses, and I've just kind of continued being a member just because of what they do and stuff like that for different events.
Yeah, I feel the same way now that my eyes have been opened. I've been a past member and let that subside, but off-road riding becoming less and less available. We are pretty spoiled, obviously, with our grounds, but people across the country pretty envious of the BMC because of what we have at our fingertips. And I've lived in Texas and in Austin, and I came to that reality where there was nowhere to ride unless you went to a sanctioned event and signed up. You really weren't riding your dirt bike very much. With the AMA, they're out there advocating for our rights and lobbying and that sort of thing for the benefit of motorcyclists all over.
Absolutely. So I want to brush on a couple things that you said and when you were explaining the Motoclimb there. One I want to brush on is Matt Musgrove. He's just a cool dude. Got to know him through the hill climbs and through the same way you got to know him through Austin Tyler and stuff like that. And he just genuinely wants the sport to grow and wants the sport to everybody to have fun with it. And what he's doing with the Motoclimb, it's my favorite format, and it's all he's done is made it better over the last few years. And I really like what he's doing, and it's coming from a good place, which is really good because there's a lot of promoters throughout the nation with all sorts of different events. It's coming from their pocketbook and not for the riders or for the love of the sport. So which is really cool about Matt.
Yeah, I think I do believe in Matt's, foundational purpose. He fell in love with the sport, thought immediately it was the greatest show on two wheels. And, for many of us, we feel the same way. And he's from California. He's got a great demeanor, super likable guy, easy to talk to, and he's able to make connections and relationships with people who some of us will never cross paths with. And because of that, we get exposed to, the industry in its highest levels due to Matt and how he's really stuck his neck out, his pocketbook out, and, put a lot of things that probably he thought he'd be doing in life on hold to promote what he's doing and really take a risk and move things forward, not only with Motoclimb, but through the U.S. Hard Enduro Series and that sort of thing, his involvement there as well. So, we have a lot.
It's more of a dream than a job for him.
I know. Excuse me. I think that he probably has to remind himself of that it is kind of a dream job, but through all the hard work and travel he's got to do. So I'm sure there are times where 9 to 5 sounds pretty good, but Matt does a great job of never showing anything but smile and kindness to everybody.
I don't know if I've ever seen him not smile.
Same. Yeah. I'd like to be more like Matt many times and see how positive he is. And I can learn a lot from him.
Absolutely. So the other thing I want to brush on with that too is the stock bike class. So when Matt was first, when he started to go through forums and stuff, trying to figure out what everybody would think about the stock bike class, there was a lot of backlash from the hill climbing, old school hill climber mentality and stuff like that. With it being hill climbing is for extended bikes and so on and so forth. I always thought it'd be kind of a cool idea because all these bikes are getting so much money put into the motors and everything. It's kind of who brings the most horsepower. I understand you have to ride the horsepower, but at the same time, it's the 450 class was made to be able to go pull the bike off a showroom floor and go ride it and be competitive. And as that class has gone through its changes, money have been put in, people are finding horsepower and so on and so forth. But there was a lot of people that were against it. And since now you've seen it, what did you think of the stock class at the event? What do you think it was a good thing for the sport?
I didn't hate it. It was, I've always looked at hill climbing as, you got to have extensions and high horsepower, and he who can outsmart the hill and get the right gearing and the horsepower combination together wins, right? And I do remember the days where 450 class was geared towards the entry level rider who wants to dip a toe into the sport. And you're right, it just quickly evolved into probably the most expensive class that you can enter right now. And if you want to be competitive, as I've kind of dealt with that over the years, where I've sort of settled for, I'm just going to ride a stock 450 with extensions. And, it's honestly kind of frustrating to be in that class. And unless Josh Hill rides my stock bike, I'm not going to beat these guys with the high horsepower units, And so if I reflect back on the true meaning of the class, the stock approach makes a lot of sense. And we saw, we experienced a crossover rider from Canada, I think it was Josh Stock, and I came down with Ryan Wyatt, and it was his first hill climb, but he's a very advanced rider in the enduro circuit, and he puts one on in Canada, and he just absolutely fell in love with the sport. So we just won over another rider because he was given an opportunity to just ride what he had in the truck. And he did remarkably well and took some money home, in fact, this weekend. So I'm pretty sure he's hooked. And I honestly think keeping it stock really does bring it back to its roots of why we wanted to do a 450 class in the first place. So I really do think it's probably going to serve its purpose well.
I agree with everything you said. And, it's hill climbing's a grassroots sport for sure. And that's kind of bringing it back to the grassroots. All of us guys go ride our stock bikes in the hills. You go with your buddies and you go back to a hill and say who can get up the furthest, and that's created so many friendships, so many laughs. And then you start getting the extended bikes in there and stuff like that. But there's nothing like going out with your buddies to see who can get the highest up on a stock bike on a Friday night. There's so many guys at the BMC that have done that for years. Scott Olson's group, and I thought you were involved in that group for over the years.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I learned a lot from those guys. Yeah.
And that's where so many, and I think that's where hill climbing is lacking is kind of going back to the roots a little bit, because every sport in the world has kind of became, which a quote unquote a rich man sport, which I don't 100% agree with all the time, but I think the stock bike class will bring even some more motocross racers in, whether it be amateur to the professionals. I agree with what he did, and I'm glad that, because there was a lot of people that said no, and he did it anyways. And I really think it's going to take off, and it's something that I think more hill climb should adopt, because I think you'll bring in more different kinds of riders instead of just quote unquote hill climbers.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I love about our series is the different series is how unique sometimes each hill is. Like if every hill was a rolling East Coast hill, life would get pretty repetitive. I love the way, I love how the Great American has its place. It's gnarly, steep, super rough, and it's like going into the back hills, finding the gnarliest hill and see who can make it over. And there's that. And then the very next month, we're over here on the Big Sky Challenge hills, and we do the nighttime with the jump at the bottom, and then we do the Motoclimb with just raw, straight up the hill. Cob it as hard as you can out of the hole and just go straight. That was kind of how the 700 and the open class went for Motoclimb in our event. The pro stock had the jump and the turn, and then the side by side where had the moto element. And then we just said, let's just see what you got. And we took the steepest route, and we started at the base of the hill, and everybody kind of gave it all they got. It was close racing. It was a fast hill. We saw some big air at the top. It was a little dicey on, the safety factor there, but everybody's got a right hand that runs the throttle.
Absolutely.
So wherever you feel like you need to take it to satisfy your urge to win or place or just conquer the hill, you need to stay in your zone, right? So there's guys that'll risk it more because they're more experienced. They're comfortable with doing that. They've done it before. Maybe they practice it a lot. And so I'm not opposed to seeing a, kind of an all out bonsai hill that's super steep and has a little risk to it. It's on the rider really to kind of know what they're getting into and ride where they feel they can, be. I mean, we all take the risk just signing up, so I think that every hill has enough variety into it that each event these competitors go to, I think they're well versed, and the variety of hills is great. And so it doesn't really play in, if you're in a series, you're not going to slam dunk this thing. You're going to have to be good at rough hills, fast hills, jump hills, all kinds. It takes a variety of skill sets to do well in the Motoclimb series.
Which is awesome because it's something completely different than everywhere, because it's either a drag race or it's steep and gnarly and stuff like this, which is good. I think that's great. So we've already kind of chatted about Dan, and kind of did a lot of the legwork a little bit and was co-promoter with you, and Dustin McCombs did some dirt work, stuff like that. Yep. Was there anybody else that really jumped out and it really helped you?
Dusty Quast and Lonnie Quast, they did a lot out there. They always do, from the irrigation systems and dealing with the flaws that, inherently come with electronics in control systems on irrigation pipes and that kind of thing. Don Earhart was always there when we called to fix something and bridge the gap when we needed him. There's, from my crew, Drew Herrera was there every minute, all day long, and staging with Daryl Woodcomb. Jeremy DeVries came out and announced both days. I didn't get to talk to him the day after. He stopped by my house. My wife said his voice sounded worse than mine after the event, so he was pretty wore out. There's the top of the hill, we had Kevin Matsunaga and Cole DeVries up there, and of course Aaron Cherry was there both days catching. He took a bunch of new guys under his wing, taught them how to run the hill, and they walked away with new experiences and smiles on their face. We just we had 2 side-by-sides donated by High Tech from Sean Whitcomb. I just texted him, and within seconds, he was like, "Yep, they're yours. I'll be out there, no problem." And they showed up, and we had use of them all weekend. So I dare try to mention everybody with the fear of missing somebody.
No, absolutely.
We had Candy Servowski and Beth Tyler in the scoring booth. If it wasn't for them, keeping score, that's a tough gig for. But this year, the Jelnick brothers brought out a new scoring system, and we attempted to do the intermediate time or the split time halfway up the hill. We were having trouble with that as the event went on. It started and it was working, and then it didn't work. So we're still working out those kinks. But they had 2 big screens, so Jeremy could see the running order and the current standings as he's announcing. And then I think there was, just a lot of cool benefits of that readout board. Riders could see where they were at and all that kind of thing, and see where they were at in the standings just instantaneously. And that was pretty cool. Mr. What is it? Daryl Ryland came out and did his app on the phone where you have instant access on your mobile device for scoring. Just a lot of people came out and, as usual, and lent us a hand and made promoting it really pretty easy as the event occurred. And everybody showed up when we asked them to at 7:30 in the morning, and by 5 o'clock, everybody was going home. It was a pretty quick event, and it went very, very well.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad it turned out really well, because I think both events did really well both days.
Oh yeah. So I know the nighttime had 242 entries.
That's awesome.
And I think the Motoclimb had 37, which at Josh Hill's place they had in the neighborhood of like 18 or 20. So we had an increase, and I think that's a lot to be said for the draw that we had, that Dusty and Don and Lonnie did for getting the nighttime riders to sign up. So thanks to them, we had people here already. We were able to coax them into signing up, and I think everybody had a great time. I don't think anybody had any regrets for.
Well, I hope not. They're swinging a leg over a motorcycle, so I hope they don't have any regrets.
Jeez, I do think it might have been hotter this weekend than it was at the Great American. If that's easy to believe or not, it was hot, very, very hot. No major complaints about it. We didn't have any rain this time, so thank goodness for that. Which a lot of our events have been getting rain, so we're pleased how it went. Yeah, we put a lot of water on that hill, a lot of water, and Dan Matsunaga really babysat that hill and made sure that we had a tacky hill to ride. So we were watering all the way up until 7. We might have gone a half hour too long, but that ground out there is so touchy when it comes. Like, you have the smallest amount of window, as you know. When the sun is out, the wind's blowing, it'll dry out so fast. So we really kind of pushed it a little bit, maybe a half hour too long is all. I mean, it was that close. Because I drew number 1 on the very first rider on the hill, and it was pretty sloppy when I went up. And but it was only, I would say, maybe 8 or 10 riders later, someone went over the hill. So it came into play. Like, the tackiness came around really quick.
Good deal. So, was there any standout rides that you're still thinking about today that somebody did?
Oh, let me see. Austin Tyler showed up as usual, did a lot of spectacular stuff. I'd say Saturday he almost loaded up the bike and went home because he had He'd done ride after ride after ride where he had risked something to really pull off a great ride, and it would bite him. It just didn't pay off. He had a plan, it backfired, and he would wreck. The whole weekend, out of all the classes he rode, I think he went over the hill twice. So, and the one that he did, one of the two he went over prior to the championship was on his open bike, and he was, I think he was qualified in the 8 spot maybe, if you can believe that. But because like Logan Mead and Logan Spalla and a few others had qualified in the other classes, they bumped down and bumped him in. They had to choose a bike from another class or that class, and they happened to choose bikes from another class. So that bumped down and grabbed him out of like the 7 or 8 spot. He was the last rider, I think, in the championship, and won the championship. So that was pretty spectacular. I mean, literally, I talked to him like 5 minutes prior to when he was when his name got announced to be in the championship, and you would have thought, I mean, his eyes of shock he was just shocked. He was literally like, "Hey man, I'm gonna pack it in and start loading stuff up. It sucks, I wasn't in the runoff this time." And then lo and behold, he gets called and goes up and wins it. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. And putting him last, and it's not put that way just by fate. It ended that way, yep. But it's not over until he's over the hill on those championship runs. And that puts even more of a show on for everybody, because he's going to put everything out on the line already. But then if he's not in the lead coming into that second run of the championship, he's literally going to put every single thing he has out there plus some just to go for that win. And I think everybody probably got a show with that.
Definitely. And so that kind of re-sparked him, kind of woke him up, I guess. And going into then the side-by-sides, the next day, he won the side-by-side, he won the qualifier, and then he took second place. And I think he won the 700 class as well on a borrowed bike from Carson Lloyd. Haven't seen, I know he's ridden a KTM before, but he rode one of those Carson Lloyd Peterson bikes and just smoked the hill, like came off the top, did a table, like a tabletop scrub, and literally turned the bike in the air and landed. When he landed, he was already turned, 45 degrees to go through the lights because there was a corner at the top. That was a pretty spectacular ride. And then in the open class.
If you haven't seen that, to people listening, he did post that on his Instagram, that ride. So I suggest to go watch that. That was spectacular.
Yeah, you're right. It was good, really good. And again, that's that was the 700 hill. That hill and the one we went up on the open class could be the two steepest portions of those hills that we call the Big Sky Hill. We definitely scoped out the absolute steepest points we could find to go up, and these guys make it look completely easy. So
way too easy. Then you get someone like me on the hill, and it's like, all right, it's not that easy, guys. Why do you guys make it so easy?
I want to give a plug to Shiloh Crone. She may have caught me on my open bike in a precarious wheelie position on the steepest portion of that hill on the open class. And in the 20-some years I've been racing, I have never seen a better picture. And I'm so proud of that photo, and I think I sent it to you.
Yep, it's going to be on our YouTube video. So yeah, everybody will be able to see that if you're watching on YouTube.
The ride, it didn't end up going over the hill, as you can probably guess. When someone's going about 11 to 12 o'clock on their dirt bike, it's not going to end super well. But it wasn't too bad of a wreck, but me and my open bike did tumble. We just made it to the crest, and that thing was starting to go crossways across the face. And then I high-sided. But
hill climber's
moments
nightmare.
before that, Shiloh Crone literally caught, like, I think the best hill climb shot I've ever seen. And I'm just so thrilled that it was me. So I always have that shot now. And I do plan on buying that from her and getting it blown up somewhere and put it in my garage or my office for sure.
That's awesome. It's pretty funny. I kind of have a similar story to you from the Columbus Hill Climb. I made the newspaper from an awesome clip. It made it look like I knew what I was doing, but if you knew what happened 5 seconds after that picture was taken, I was on the ground because I was in mid-fall. It just made it look like I knew what I was doing. So it's pretty funny. It feels good to have those pictures, but and then you hope that no one asks what happened after.
Yeah, I know. Somebody on Facebook or Instagram asked, well, the question is, did you make it? And I just kind of put a little winky emoji after that.
Don't ask silly questions.
You'll have to just use your imagination. I'm happy to say the ride previous to that, I did make it over. But, of course, the picture she took of that, I'm totally in control, and it doesn't look very exciting.
Well,
but I did go over at that point. Yeah, I'll take that action shot any day of the week.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else you want to add about your event, talk about that we didn't chat about yet, or?
I just put a plug out there, and it's been done over and over, but Metal Tech and Metal Tech did our awards and a spectacular job again.
That's
Rick Baker.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yeah. Veteran.
Yeah.
He does a lot for veterans and stuff like that. He is awesome.
And let's see. So, and thanks to Matsunaga Technologies, DeVries Insurance, and the BMC, they picked up the bill for that. Motoclimb came through with a guaranteed purse. They paid quite a few places, 10 spots in the open class, and I believe 7 or 8 in the 450. And then I wanted to thank Hanson's Fisher Water with Chad Lorenz, and there's one other person I'm missing for the purse for the qualifier, the 450 qualifier. Oh shoot! Please forgive me. I forgot. There was the third person that gave us some money. They raised, I think, $700 or $800 for between those. Oh, it was Ready Electric.
Jordan and Mike Schmidt.
Jordan Schmidt. Yes. God grief. And I don't want to make Jordan mad because he could just squash me in one little throat smash next BMC meeting if he hears this. But no, those guys came through and gave the qualifier some money, which usually it doesn't get paid. They don't even get points. So that was really kind of those folks. The Calcutta went very well on Friday night. We raised somewhere in the neighborhood of $12,000, and a good, I think, 25% of that went to Wade Tinsvold for helping him out after an accident that caused some major complications for him in life, and so that money went to them. And the raffle for the Stasic and all that stuff went off really well at the Powderhorn. So thanks to Angie.
Did they give away that Stasic?
They did. Yeah, they did give it away. I can't remember who got it, but yeah, the Calcutta is always such a good fundraiser, and it's ever since the nighttime was formulated in 2008 by Corey Earhart and Dustin Kloss. They did that because they lost a friend and they wanted to pay tribute to them. And then ever since then, they found a person in need to raise money for. They gave money to the Lindsay family the year before, and then I forget prior to that who they've donated money to from that Calcutta. But it's always for a cause.
If you haven't been to one of those Calcuttas, it is awesome. I was really bummed. This was the first year in quite a while that I actually missed it. I won't be missing it next year, but it's always a great time. If you're just a spectator or if you're a family of the rider or a rider yourself, it's just a good times. And I highly suggest to get to that. And the Nightmare Hill Climb itself is just a great event. It's probably the biggest club hill climb that we do over and over and over, just because of the amount of riders we get, the payout and stuff
Yep.
like that, which is really cool. It's not a sanctioned event, and you're able to do a couple different rules and stuff, like other than what the Rockwell Series does usually in that at the BMC, which is pretty cool to have something different.
Yeah, something different that came about was nitro was allowed. So Whittecomb's brought out their nitro burner and put Ezra Quast on that bike, and he placed and won some money on that bike this weekend. So he's never ridden an open bike before, and he jumps on a nitro burner and put some really good runs down. So
it's amazing what
notable.
Happens when you're a good rider. That kid can ride.
You can do anything, yeah. After being a good motocrosser, you can pretty much do whatever comes your way.
And there's no fear there.
No real fear. Well, fear comes from the unknown. And
yep.
So when you put in the laps and time that you do, like they do, you lose. You're surprised when you don't do it right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So it's pretty cool. The rider he's developed into. So that's good. That was great. I think I'm sure I'm missing something, but I sure touched on a lot. And, I just continue to be, thankful for, people like Raleigh and some of his buddies were out there Monday night after Motoclimb. I went out there to collect paperwork and stuff for the promoters that for work party hours. They're out there picking up garbage. I didn't ask them to. It's just stopped, said thank you so much, and they're like, what, why wouldn't we? Of course we're gonna. It just didn't even occur to him to be, but it's just that kind of commitment from our club to keep the grounds looking nice and not have to be begged. There's just certain people that just know it needs to be done, and they just go out there and do it. So it was really, really neat to see, and the grounds look great after that big weekend. I mean, there wasn't, except for the few garbage cans that were left that those guys were taking care of, there wasn't a spot of garbage anywhere. Everyone cleaned up after themselves, and the people that were out there cleaning it up did a great job.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate your time to recap your event and talk about the nighttime a little bit. I kind of teased a little bit that we might have something in the works of doing stuff together. I got a chair over here that would look pretty good with your tail in it. So I when we get everything settled and everything like that, I would love to have you as a co-host. I think it'd be really great. And help me interview some people, and we can both learn about some of these people together. And I think that'll be awesome. And I really appreciate you willing to do that with me.
Yeah, I'd love to. Definitely. As you can tell, I don't mind talking. So the biggest challenge will be to ask good questions and be quiet and let the guests speak and let us hear what they have to say.
Absolutely. So I have the same problem.
I'll do my best to keep my mouth shut.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, Brandon. Thanks for having me on tonight.
You betcha. Have a good one.
All right. Take care.
All right. So that was Kevin Bromenshenk. As you can tell, he loves to talk just like I do. I think him and I will gel really well. We're going to be announcing together at the BMC and stuff, just like I have with Jeremy DeVries. I would love to have him come in and do some stuff with me too. He's just a good dude, very well spoken. So yeah, that was Kevin. That both BMC events, Saturday and Sunday, went off without a hitch, and did really well. So really thanks to them, because without promoters, the BMC wouldn't be able to have the events that they have. So thank you to them. And now we're going to just chat a little bit. It won't be very long, but about the AMA Pro Motocross Series. So in the 250 class, it was a good series at the beginning, and then it started separating out. Hunter Lawrence started to stretch out his lead. And then mid-season, he had a bike. He crashed in the first turn, and he thought he hurt his arm, so he pulled off after the first turn. And he ended up not. And then the next race he comes in, he ends up blowing up a motor. So all that does is it brings it just super tight. And then it was really tight. Hayden Deegan was right there with him for a while. And then Hayden ended up having a motor issue, which kind of separated it out again. And then it was Justin Cooper and Hunter Lawrence battling for the championship. And Hunter kind of walked away with it at the end. He ended up winning with a total of 419 points and then Justin Cooper had 399. So that was 20 points off. So which isn't that bad. It's almost a moto, but yeah, it was really cool. It ended up, but these riders are absolutely phenomenal. I was able to go to Thunder Valley this year, and what you see on TV does no justice for what these riders are doing. I have some videos I'll throw up on my YouTube channel, 406MX podcast at Gmail. Oh, sorry, that's at gmail.com, and that is the email, but it's 406MX podcast on YouTube. So yeah, so that I'll put those up too. It's just going up a hill. It was absolutely insane. So what I'll do is I will run through kind of the top 10 of the 250 class, and I'll note anything if anything's probably happening in the season, in the silly season, off season, about new bikes and stuff like that. First place, like we already talked about, is Hunter Lawrence. Sounds like he's going to race 250 Supercross next year, and then in outdoors he is going to bump up to the 450s with his brother. Justin Cooper is riding 250 motocross right now. It sounds like next year he is going to race 450 Supercross and motocross. He is not able to ride 250 Supercross anymore because of a point out a couple years ago. Joe Shimoda was third place in the series, and Joe will be riding with Hunter Lawrence under the HRC Honda tent, which that should be pretty cool. Nothing of this has been put out there yet, but a lot of this has been confirmed, but not confirmed, if you know what I mean. Fourth place, Rookie of the Year, number 238, Hayden Deegan. Hayden rode really well all season. Next year, he will still be on the Star Racing, Monster Energy Racing Yamaha team. Fifth place was Levi Kitchen. Levi Kitchen is going to be switching over to the Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki team for next year. I expect good things for him, and I think that the Pro Circuit team will have another great rider underneath their tent. And then sixth place was Tom Vial. Tom Vial should be higher in this list, but he had a couple motos where he ended up getting hurt. Thunder Valley was one of them, second moto, and I believe he was able to. He did, and then he ended up not racing second moto of Washougal either. So he'd be right up there in that top 4 area. Number seventh place, Maximus Voland. Max, it's a little weird. Not sure where he's going to end up. He should end up somewhere. Started young. They gave him 3 years. He just hasn't done a whole lot, but I really think that he will do well somewhere else too, but maybe a change of scenery. I really hope he gets a ride. He's really good for our sport. And eighth is RJ Hampshire. The reason why he is down in eighth is he missed the last 2 races. He had a really hard crash at Unadilla in the second moto, and he had a hard crash, but he will be sticking with them on the Rockstar Husqvarna team. Ninth place is Jalik Swoll. Jalik Swoll he had a tough indoor because he crashed right before Supercross started and lost all that time, and he was just recovering from an injury and stuff. So it's good to see him to stay healthy all the way through the series and get 9th. 10th is Ryder DeFrancisco. I am not sure where he's headed, but it sounds like he is out of Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki, so we'll see where he ends up. I think he'll be good wherever he goes. He's very young, so yeah, we'll see how he does. In the 450 class, Jet Lawrence, 22-0. That kid, as a rookie, didn't lose a moto, and he almost led almost every single lap too. There's not even it's crazy. He was in a class of his own, and it was awesome to see that happen. I really wish he would have lost a moto just to make it more interesting, but in all grand scheme of things, it was pretty interesting that he's the third person to do the undefeated season. Ricky Carmichael and James Stewart also did that, but they did it when it was 24 motos instead of 22, and James was sure to mention that on the broadcast throughout the season. But yep, great time. Ricky's done it twice, James has done it once, and Jet Lawrence has done it once. In second place is Dylan Ferrandis. Dylan Ferrandis rode a pretty good season all here. Him and AP kind of battled throughout the whole series. He ended up having a really bad last moto of the year. He ended up crashing second corner. Had a pretty nasty get off at Ironman MX, and it was good for him to see him getting second. The weird thing about him getting second is he is no longer going to ride for the Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team. Not sure where he's headed yet, but he will not. His agent confirmed this week that he will be racing next year. He's not retiring like he did say on Pulp MX, on the Pulp MX show. So good to see. Hopefully we get him back and get him back to form. Third place in the series, it was fan favorite Aaron Plessinger. Aaron is the best fan favorite. I met him in Thunder Valley. Just overall good dude, great rider. He had a couple motos not in the that he struggled with, but I think it was a great season for him, and he is going to be on the Motocross of Nations team. That's the only one we know of so far, and he's locked in. Look for that on social media here pretty soon. Fourth was Chase Sexton. Chase Sexton missed a few races in the middle of the season. That's why he is sitting fourth. He would be second in the series. Next year, he is leaving the Honda team and going to Red Bull KTM. So he will be taking over Cooper Webb's spot, which Cooper Webb will be going the Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha team. Fifth place in the series, Adam Cincerillo. He had some arm issues throughout the season. It sounds like he started getting a hold, but he was just steady. Made it through a whole season without getting hurt, which that's a win. In sixth place is Garrett Marchbanks. Came into the series a little late into it. He missed the first two rounds. In the third round, he came in Thunder Valley on a 450 for the first time, and he did really well throughout the rest of the series. He had one moto that he crashed, ended up deep in the field, but other than that, looked really good. Seventh place in the series would have been sixth. I think the standout of the series is Ty Masterpool. Ty Masterpool was absolutely phenomenal. He was the highest placing privateer throughout the whole series. He would have beat Garrett, but he ended up having appendicitis the last race. Wasn't able to race. He did qualifying with appendicitis, which that's crazy. And so he didn't end up racing. That's how Garrett was able to get ahead of him. Ninth was Jason Anderson. Jason Anderson came in about halfway through the series due to the injury that he sustained. I believe it was in Supercross. Number in 10th is Hawaii's own Grant Harlan. Grant Harlan rode great all season long. Go to his Instagram page, Grant Harlan. His garage caught on fire in Texas, and he lost his practice bikes and everything, and he is doing an auction for some stuff, trying to replace some of the parts and stuff he lost in bikes. So go see that. So yeah, that was it on the 450 class. One guy we didn't mention was Cooper Webb. Cooper Webb was going to be in that top three, but he ended up getting him and KTM parted their ways, and we'll be seeing him on a blue bike here in the SMX playoffs in a couple weeks. I believe he's been riding. I'm sure he's been riding. They can't say that he's been riding because he's still technically under contract with KTM. But week before, so next week, I think we'll see Cooper finally on a Yamaha with pictures and video. So expect him to do really well in the playoffs. So I think the battle is going to be between Chase and Jet, of course, AP, Aaron Plessinger, and Dylan Ferrandis. I think that's going to be your top people in the SMX playoffs. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Appreciate everybody listening and watching on YouTube. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. So I would really like to thank our sponsors, though, before we leave. Brothers Billiards, Todd Crum. He also owns Floors by Design, who is also a sponsor. I really appreciate him doing that this season. It's helped us upgrade our equipment and do other things. I would like to also thank Billings Power Sports, Dax and his crew down there. Dax was actually our first sponsor that came on board. Go down there. He can, if you need a pit bike, that's what he specializes in. But he can also order all the parts for your bikes that you need. And then also Cowgirl Creativity. She's gonna help me do some banners and stuff for the series, for the series of the podcast. and also going to be able to do stuff with her. She does really good. She can make banners, trophies. She does amazing trophies. She did that for the event I promoted a few weeks ago. So yeah, and then we have our new sponsor, Yellowstone Valley Trailer Services. Ken and Julie Elwell, they jumped on board to help us, and I really appreciate them. If you need trailer work done, jacks, or you need a new trailer, or anything you need trailer wise, they're the people. They're good people to know. Good family-owned business. Kenny, their son, is involved in the business also, which is great because that's actually where I come from too, is family-owned business. So with that, please support our sponsors. Thank you to our sponsors. Until next time, we'll see you later.